Ever feel like local news is all talk, no action? Michael Jevedon is flipping the script. See, Michael's not just talking about change, he's living it. He's tired of seeing folks shrug their shoulders, thinking their voices don't matter in Morgan County and eastern Kentucky. That's why he's teamed up with Matthew Perry for Conspiracy Realist, a live show serving up fact-checked stories with zero spin. They dig into what's happening so you're not left in the dark. Think you know what's going on? Think again. Tune in every week, get the real scoop, and be part of a community that's informed and ready to take action. Stay in the loop or stay out of it. The choice is yours.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an absolute beautiful and hot afternoon right here in downtown Candle City, Kentucky. Right here in the heart of it all.
The heart of the bluegrass.
The heart of the bluegrass, downtown Candle City. It's good to be back. We were off last week because somebody went and got the strep throat.
I can't help it, man. I can't help it. I got over it, and the next thing I know, my daughter got sick, and I got it again. And I've tried my best to get through it, but
Yeah,
I've been spitting.
It's running rampant right now. That strep throat is. I mean, a lot of people's got. Well, I had tonsillitis. That's the first time I think in my life that I've ever had tonsillitis. I had tonsillitis. Aiden had mono, and then everybody else in the family had strep. And I'm like, and then you got strep about the time they got strep, and I'm like, boys, it's a running around here. It's making one last push before summertime kicks in, but I believe we are here now. It's only going to get hotter.
Well, I think the forecast for next week is hot, hotter, and hottest.
Yeah. I would imagine today's probably the hottest day of the year so far. And I don't know if the camera shows it or not, but I'm sunburned pretty good.
It don't take long. You stay out in the sun.
Got burned up pretty good today. Out here mowing and weed eating, and went and took a dip. Went and took a dip in the pool. Not the pool, but in the pond a little while ago, and to try to cool off and everything. But got to do what you got to do. Best part of being live is you never know what you're going to see,
or who you're going to see,
If you do see something going on in the background, it is not affiliated with us. Unless you see the vehicle in the background is being broken into, then let us know, because that's Matthew's vehicle over there. But anything else, whatever you see, it ain't us. Well, other than strep throat, how you been?
Oh, I've been good.
Good. I mean, it's good to be back. We've only been out here once, and we froze to death that night. But I got a feeling that's not happening tonight.
Well, I assumed that we were going to be outside, and I thought, sure as the world, it'll get cold and it'll start raining.
Well, now I can't promise that it ain't going to rain, because it seems to always do that. And I will take advantage of today being the first day in a long time that it ain't rained. And no wonder both of you keep your hair short. Oh man, but yeah, it's definitely hot out here. I don't know if it's hot out here or if just where I'm sunburned, I feel like it's hot out here. Normally though, we're back here, and I tried to put us a little bit where the shade would hit us some. And before we get started here tonight, guys, a friend of mine that I work with has a son that is missing, and I wanted to share this flyer here. Mr. Shane Whitaker. Shane, you would probably know Shane.
I saw that flyer.
He would have been a student of yours, I do believe. Shane Morgan County's own Shane Whitaker. last time seen was in Louisville. He was living in Louisville, and I work with his dad. Um, I don't know if they're watching right now or not, so if they'd like to say anything, they could. Um, but the last time they talked to him was trying to see if I could see May 20th. May 20th was the last time that he was seen or heard from. And then, even then, I believe it was a call from a hospital that said, he was in critical condition. So his parents put out this missing persons flyer and went through the Louisville Metro Police to try to find him. And like I said, I work with his dad, and at this point, they just would like to hear that he's okay. And I told him that I would share it on here tonight. And if anybody knows anything about it, know where he is, where he sees, you can get a hold of the family. Do whatever you guys can do to help this family out. I know Shane. I didn't know him well. I don't know him well, but I mean, I do remember him. He's 36, so he would have been a couple years behind me in school, but I do remember him, and I know he played some ball, and and stuff like that. So, like I said, I know you probably would remember him.
I think he has a brother and a sister, doesn't he?
I believe so. Jordan, maybe he's got a brother named Jordan. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know Stacy real well, and I do remember Shane, and I know there's a Jordan, but I don't know any of the other ones. And like I said, if any of them are watching right now, feel free to put in the comments or whatever there to get any more information out. But like I said, I'm leaving it up here a little bit, with that Louisville Metro Police Department number there. If you've seen him, know anything about him, know where he is, you could call the Louisville Metro Police there, let them know. Or if well, there's Stephanie Whitaker there right now in the comments. So, you can let her or Stacy know on Facebook there if you was to know anything or know where he's at. They're definitely would just like to, and if nothing else, just hear from him. Just be able to hear from him and know that he's okay. And as you see, it says attempt to locate. So that's, that's what they're trying to do. And I appreciate everybody in the comments of praying and stuff. And, hopefully he is found safe. And throughout the night, I'll put this back up and, we'll continue to show it. And, hopefully they'll hear something soon. Burning up. I don't even really know. I mean, where do you want to start at? Well, I mean, obviously. I'm just clicking on anything that I could click on. Okay, so I did see Becky Ballinger here say thanks for sharing, and Stephanie says that is his sister. So, you were talking about the sister. So, I mean, if anybody let me go back to that. If anybody does know or has seen or know the whereabouts where Shane may be, you can contact Stephanie Whitaker, Becky Ballinger. Get a hold of them or call the number. Call that Louisville Metro Police Department number there at the bottom of the screen, and let them know that the people are looking for him. And you never know what you're going to see here when you're live. But
I saw that ad come up the other day for missing person. When I saw it, I was like, I know the name, I know the kid. I had him in school, but it kind of show my age a little bit. You tend to forget. You forget the brothers and sisters, and sometimes forget names until you see the picture, or you run into somebody and they'll start talking to you, Mr. Perry, what you been doing, and I oftentimes catch myself saying when they leave, who was it, and then sometimes it jogs my memory. But I hated seeing that come up the other day.
Yeah, I was riding with his dad the other day, and he was talking about how they were going to have to put that flyer out. They were going to have to contact the police department there and do the missing persons report, and be able to hopefully at least get some form of contact to know that he's okay. In the world that we live in today, you never know, and in Louisville especially, I mean, when I go to Louisville, I'm there for like conferences and stuff, and I'm out. Now, a couple of times that I've been there, there's been some shady stuff in places. I about got mugged, at 4th Street. I went to the 4th Street Live, and I ain't going back. So, I ain't going to go back. So, Yeah. So yeah, anybody, if you do know the whereabouts of Shane, let the family know. And like I said, throughout the night, I'll just periodically, like we're doing here, I'll just pop it up, and anybody can see this. Take a screenshot of this if you want to, or do whatever you need to do, and get this flyer out, share the flyer, get it out. That way, more people can get it. What's going on back here?
Bumblebee.
She's trying to protect you. she hates those.
It's all right. I got Matthew
You're allergic
over
to
here.
those, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm allergic to
That's what
them.
I'm
As long as
saying.
it stays up there, I'm all right.
It's coming down.
Like I said, I'm just going to hit real briefly on this current week. I'm not even going to get a whole lot into it. I mean, it doesn't really do any good. Of course, most people have seen the post by now talking about the district facilities plan.
No.
Through the school board, it's been approved 4-1. With the lone vote, we are we've been completely taken down here.
No.
Um,
I think that's wrong.
well, guys, we'll be back shortly. Having a little technical difficulties here, and
Say. No. Are you back on there?
no, you see you all. You're showing Larry. Are you gonna sit and hold it,
I'm
or?
gonna have to sit and hold it.
I mean,
Larry, can you hold this for me? Let me take her inside. Yeah, it broke the fan right here.
Here, let me see that piece right there.
Safe in the house. Come on. No. No.
This piece right here, I think, will go on it.
It does.
I'll be right back, guys. I think that should just pop off right there, and then maybe. The joys of being live, guys. All right, let's see what you got there. Give a round of applause for our cameraman Larry. Holding the camera there for us.
I can do that for a little bit.
But anyway, guys, as I was saying, the school board did vote to do the whole middle school thing and everything. And then, like I said, you saw the post and everything that I shared out, where I basically said I don't have to agree with it, but, you have to accept it and move forward. And that's where we're at. It's nothing really much else I could say or do about it. I mean, I did my part, did what I said I was going to do. And, now we have to move forward. I mean, we don't have to like the decision, but, we do have to move forward with it and go on. So it is what it is. I still don't think that thing's on there right. And I agree with what Ray said. We're going to have to zip tie it on there now or something. Boy, we were going good too. We were going good. But we're back, I think. So, but yeah, I see people talking about it there, but it is what it is, guys. I mean, I did what I could do. I did see some posts and stuff go out earlier today that people said they didn't even know anything about it. Didn't know there was anything like that happening and stuff. And I'm like, I mean, it's been in the newspaper for a month. It's been on here for over a month. I did a show over on the board page on May 23rd, where I talked about it. I mean, and I know you probably heard me numerous times on here say, go over and follow my page or follow, my personal account or whatever, because I keep up anything school, I'll keep up to date, keep doing and everything like that. But like I said, the front page of the newspaper, it's been in there for the past couple of weeks, even this week, with the last meeting and stuff. So, I mean, it is what it is. But,
Well, I think they had a couple forums on it too, didn't they?
Yeah, June 5th was the first hearing. We had a petition. There was a petition that was going around The people actually put out a petition, had 1,091 signatures on it. 7 people showed up to that meeting. 7 people from the public showed up for that meeting. So then the school board, once it got approved by the state, it goes to the school board. And at the school board meeting Tuesday night, which was the first hearing, we had one person show up and, didn't speak. It was just a person in the audience. And then last night's special meeting, which was, held to confirm, Thursday night, they had the hearing for it, which means it would go move on. And then it come between the board last night, in front of the board last night. And, was nobody showed up. So, and nobody showed up for the meeting on Thursday night either, for the hearing. So it's like,
Really don't care.
well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's hard to sit on here and drink 5 things of water and just hound into people's heads that these things are happening, and then nobody show up. Like I said, the very first meeting that they had with the hearing, or the first time they had it on June 5th, they had 7 people out of almost 1,100 on a petition show up, and then after that, so I don't know. I mean, I tried to not say anything really too out of the way about it, but I mean, when you look at your news feed and you look at things and you see people talking about not knowing it and knowing that it was in the front page of the newspaper for a month, and that I'm even having it on here and the school board page. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. But like I said, we have to move on. Don't have to agree with it, but we have to move on, and that's where we're going to go and get these flies off of us. What's that out here? Sounds like there might be a missile coming. You don't think they're going to come after us, do you?
No. No.
So you don't think we're going to get involved in Iran?
Do I think we're going to get involved in Iran?
Do you think we're going to get involved in Iran or the Iran-Israel?
My firm belief is this, that Trump will do what is first and foremost best for Americans. And that is he campaigned on the policy that the United States would not be involved in any wars. Now, I know the media is putting out a lot of publications and stories conveying that Trump has basically put together a strike plan and is ready to go with that strike plan. However, the last report that I saw, Mike, was that Donald Trump was going to give Iran 2 more weeks to make a decision, and then he would make a decision. Tonight at 6 o'clock, he has a National Security Council meeting at 6 o'clock. Tonight he did. So, to determine course of action, I firmly believe that the United States will not be involved in that crisis or that conflict at all. I know Benjamin Netanyahu wants the United States involved, and every time you turn around, the media might keep saying things like, we can't allow Iran to have a nuclear program. Well, my first question is, how do we know Iran has a nuclear program?
Right.
The reason I ask that is because we were told with the war in Iraq that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. We obliterated that place for over 20 years, invested hundreds of billions of dollars, and the greatest cost was American lives lost. Did we find weapons of mass destruction? No. So, if the media told you then that there were weapons of mass destruction in a Middle Eastern country, one that doesn't have the military know-how nor ability to do it, do I believe Iran has a nuclear program? No. I think, and like I said, I may create a lot of opposition and a lot of turbulence by me saying this, but I know the United States is a strong supporter of Israel. I realize that. The only problem is Israel has drawn us into conflicts over in that area for the last 20 to 25 years. And there comes a point where you have to look out for American interests. Is a war in the Middle East best for America. In no form or shape is that best for American interests. So I think Trump will negotiate with Iran. I think Iranian officials have actually stated they wanted to come to the White House already. They want to sit down and they want to mediate this. I think that through peaceful negotiations, we will get a deal where they will cease the ability to try to attempt to create a nuclear program with sanctions. I firmly believe that. Now, a lot of people believe we're in biblical times here, that the end of the world is near. Uh, what I'm going to tell you is that's not for us to decide. That's for the Creator to decide. You know, we need not worry about that. We need to worry about being focused on the here and now. And I know a lot of people may not want to hear that, but you know, you're not going. You can lose sleep worrying about a World War III scenario when it could happen or it could not happen.
Well, I mean, how many times over the years? I mean, World War II ended in what, 1945? You know, so we're getting what, well, 80 years. It's been 80 years, and we've not had a World War III. And I mean, there was about 30 years apart between one and two. So I mean, how many times has it looked like, with all the conflicts going on, that there would be a World War III? So I mean, you know, like you said, I mean, in 80 years, you know, people's heard that over and over and over. Here's World War III. Here's World War III. But I mean,
You know, the
don't
closest.
don't lose sleep over something that could happen, or don't lose sleep for something that maybe may never happen. I mean, which I'm sure it may happen eventually, but I mean, doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the last 4 years of Trump's administration, the first 4 years, you know, we diverted and were able to avoid foreign wars on foreign soils. And, you know, I think that's one of the main things that he wants to continue doing is trying to keep us out of conflicts that could ultimately jeopardize the lives of Americans, and especially billions and billions and billions of dollars being invested for really no outcome. I mean, when you talk about the Iraqi war, a lot of lives were lost, a lot of money was invested. You know, we basically tried to do what we did in Vietnam, which was give those people military support and transition them to a parliamentary government where they could basically take over for themselves. But you know, you've got Islamic terrorists, you've got Islamic radical fundamentalist groups that are doing everything they can because you know they hate America. You know, and but as I said, I think the war will be diverted. In on my own personal opinion, I think Trump will do everything in his power to keep us out of there. Uh, Now, I'm not going to look at you and tell you that it may not be escalated on the part of Israel. You know,
Yeah, they seem to be exchanging fire back and forth.
Well, we had a mediation group there discussing peace terms, and then all of a sudden Benjamin Netanyahu starts bombing Iran, and then you've got missile exchange, and they're going at it right now. You know, that could have been prevented, but seems to me like the Israelis are diehard set on a war.
Yeah,
but why pull us into it? It's not our conflict. That's the most important thing. You know, you talk about World War One and World War Two. They were foreign wars fought in Europe. They were not our fight until it became our fight. You know, World War One, you had the Lusitania that was sunk. You had submarine warfare going on. Eventually, the United States was drawn in. I call it push-pull factors. People push you and they pull you in. Sometimes your alliance systems pull you in. Sometimes you're pushed in. You talk about World War II with Pearl Harbor. You know, we had to take a stance against the Japanese, and it ultimately led to Germany and Italy declaring war on us a couple of days after Pearl Harbor. And you know, uh, it proved to be successful for the United States both times. But who's to say that this war, if there is a war, we will come out on the winning side? Because I got a feeling that Iran has an ally in Russia, and I do know that Putin is doing his best right now. Of all people trying to create a peace term, Putin is trying to create peace between Iran and Israel. But a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. because they think Putin's a bad guy. You know, like I said, we've discussed that multiple times on previous programs. You know, it's all what the media tells you. It's all what you believe. You know, if you do your own in investigation, your own research, you might come to find out that a lot of these people are not exactly what the media tells you.
No, that's a fact. You listen to the media, you probably don't know. You ain't don't know what you hear. I mean, the media tells you on a daily basis that things are bad.
Okay, on the way over here, one of the first things I saw was a news media outlet saying that within the next 30 days, expect the Iranian government to launch a massive cyber attack on U.S. infrastructure. Why would they say that? They don't know that's coming, but it almost sounds as if the media wants us what?
Into with Iran.
Wants us into a war with Iran. You know, why not leave it well enough alone and let it be what it be? And, you know, we'll see where it goes from there. But if Trump is the mediator that I think he is, and he has the ability to prevent wars by, you know, getting people to sit down at a table and harsh out some sanctions and restrictions and some terms, you know, I think he'll do that.
Josh brought up a pretty good point here in the comments. He said, "Did you all see where they had an earthquake hit in Iran, and that was like a 5.2 earthquake?" I said, "Now, boys, during the time where we got a lot of fans here, um, you know, during the time where you have Israel and Iran, you know, trading missile strikes back and forth, right in the middle of Iran, you have an earthquake." You know, and it's like, I mean, that's odd how, you know, what exactly led to that. I mean, was it like some kind of military thing, or if it's just, you know, just a part of nature that, you know, happens all over the place?
If you say that the military had anything to do with that, then people are going to ultimately label you a war.
We've been a conspiracy theorist for years. You know, technically, probably way before anything started doing live videos. We've been
labeled something worse than that.
But, you know,
well, yeah, we ain't worried about him. But
you know, I don't know. I saw that. For me to think that an earthquake would happen right in the middle of a war,
that's odd, isn't it?
It's kind of odd, but it leads
First thing I thought of was just a big old, what do they call them? A bunker buster?
They call them a Moab.
You know,
mother of all bombs, a bunker buster.
Maybe something like that. Maybe had went down into the ground and exploded or something is what caused that. But now I don't know. Like I said, I'm not in Iran.
They normally have earthquakes. I mean, like California has an earthquake.
California's probably having an earthquake right now.
Right. So
you know, I mean, that's the matter is out there. They have them all the time. So I mean, I don't know.
You don't hear about it.
You know, I was never stationed in Iran. You know, I was in Bobo, South Africa there for a little while, but
well, I'd say there were very few Americans stationed in Iran because Iran is a little bit different than most of the Middle Eastern countries.
You're not going to get into Iran. You know, they've already talked about that. There ain't going to be no boots on the boots on the ground in Iran. Lord, I'm getting choked up being next to you. Sore throat.
I know.
Goodness, because it's surrounded by mountains, and there's just no easy way to get in there. It's not like Iraq or Afghanistan or some of them that's just flat desert. This is surrounded by mountains. So, you know, I think that's why Israel's doing a lot of the airstrikes, is because they know that they ain't going to be no boots on the ground. Well, and Trump said that himself. You know, there won't be, if America did get involved, there wouldn't be boots on the ground. So, I mean, it's just going to continue to, you know, go back and forth.
And that may be the best. You know, like I said, I'm not saying in support of or against, but fighting a war on enemy's territory, in my opinion, is not a smart strategy, simply because they understand the lay of the land, you know, their tactics. We don't understand the Iranian tactics, even though we claim we do.
Iraq.
You know, we tried that in Vietnam.
20 years there in Iraq, and then, yeah, Vietnam's another indication that we were.
It's kind of like the movie. You ever watch the movie, Mike, The Lone Survivor? Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. He and a group of people are they're in Afghanistan, and they're on a mission there, and they get discovered, and they try to hightail it out of there using the terrain. Well, the natives there know the terrain better than we do, and it ends up being a firefight. And he ends up successfully making it out of there, but there were several Americans that lost their life. It's a good book, Lone Survivor. If you
So
never
is
read
it a book or a movie?
It's been made into a movie.
I was
The
going
Lone
to say, because
Survivor.
the last time you mentioned a movie to us on here, I don't remember the name of it now, but it's actually a really good movie.
The DuPont one.
Yeah, the DuPont movie. I mean, so
that,
a lot of times, you know, you can put out some
Dark
pretty good
Water?
movie
Dark Water?
recommendations.
Huh?
You put out pretty good movie
Well, I'm gonna tell you
recommendations.
that movie is a good movie. I mean, it's one of those movies that it's action
It's a good
filled.
movie.
If you watch this movie, you're gonna be kind of sitting on the edge of your seat because, you know, you get an idea of how violent war is around the world and what we put our soldiers through. And then a lot of times those people don't get enough respect. And like I said, this is the Lone Survivor. I want to say his name was Marcus Luttrell. And I want to say he wrote the book called The Lone Survivor, and they turned it into a movie.
It seemed like I have seen that. Not the movie, but I have seen.
I mean, it's pretty graphic in the fact that it's in the mountainous regions, and
that's about the soldier.
Well, it's about 4 or 5 soldiers that go over and do a reconnaissance unit.
Like they get stranded over there.
Yeah, they get this.
I don't think it's been watched, but I've seen the trailer to it.
But you know that's a big story in the news right now. The Iranian Israel conflict and how it could escalate and people taking sides, and you know, I think the media would be best served to just kind of stay out of it.
Oh, I agree.
Because what they're doing is they're doing nothing but creating fear in Americans. Because there's a lot of people that are terrified. That, you know, I hear people say, you know, we're in biblical times. You know, the end of the world is near. You know, a lot of this stuff is prophesized in the Bible, and I'm like, well,
you're talking about a lot of people being scared too. I mean, a lot of people scared of a lot of things. You know, even around here locally, you know, people are scared of a lot of things. I've come to learn that, but we won't move into that. But I do want to tell everybody, you know, I saw it, you know, on the next page of your notes. You know, we said, you know, Matthew had strep throat last Saturday, and that's the reason why we went live. But technically, the reason is because here in Candle City we had a No Kings protest. Right over here, you know, last week, you know, the streets were shut down.
All 2 people showed up.
You know, the streets were shut down here in Candle City because they put big old big old concrete blocks out there, and you know, they burned some trash cans, and the No Kings protest, you know, that happened here in Candle City.
You led that, didn't you, Larry?
Larry was a part of it.
Right
you know, as the mayor, he had to be out there and doing a little bit of enforcing and stuff. But so, a lot of people, when they saw that, they like, you know, what exactly is a No Kings protest? Technically, the No Kings protest was not even nothing really to do with the king. The holiday itself, or the event itself, was on the Army's
military parade,
250th anniversary birthday. Which to me, you should celebrate 250 years of your military, absolutely, of your Army. You know, that's a wonderful thing. It just happened to be the 79th birthday of the president, which, you know, 60 million people obviously can't stand. And that's the reason for your No Kings protest.
Hold up. You said 60 million. It's actually 81 million.
Well, 81 million the last time, yeah.
81 million people. You know, those 81 million people.
Somehow it dropped.
It dropped tremendously.
You know, a few years later. But I mean, those people basically made asses out of themselves, I'll say. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. I mean, I actually watched the military parade because I thought it was neat. You know, I mean, I didn't watch it to see what Trump was going to say, and he didn't say a whole heck. But actually, you had one platoon of new soldiers march down to where Trump was, and he actually swore them into the Army. Now, that was awesome. You know, just think, when those guys' careers are over or whatever, they're always going to be saying, hey, we sworn into the Army with the President of the United States swearing us in. I mean, you know, most of us would go to a facility somewhere and just stand in front of a few people in a little small room to say that To say that, to say that the president, let it. But I mean, that was a lot of your issue was because it was the president's birthday. But I mean, it just
So
happened.
are they claiming that Donald Trump is a king?
They're claiming that he's a king, that he's running the country as a king, and they don't want no king. They don't want no king. And I'm thinking,
So
I don't even know what country they think they're living in. Well, you said it a minute ago, and people could say it in the comments here. The things that are happening right now, besides the Iran thing, but since January 20th, is that when since January 20th to now, as the things that's happened in America, what you voted for, and you can put that in the comments.
well, let me say this: Donald Trump has been in office as president of the United States for a total of 4 years and 5 months. That does not give him the tenure nor the reign of a monarch or a king. Now, is he running the country like a monarch? In my opinion, no, because he has constitutional authority afforded to him by the U.S. Constitution as the executive chief. A lot of the appointments that he's made had to be confirmed through Congress. Senate had to confirm them, 50 by majority vote.
Right.
So the legislative body saw fit that these people were worthy enough to be recipients of the appointments. So he followed constitutional duty. But when you talk about no kings, there's a lot of things I wrote down when we talked about the no kings, because what's happened is they're about 249 years late. The United States of America is 250 years old, roughly. We were under the rule of George III, distantly from Great Britain. American colonists came here for various reasons: to get away from the crown, opportunity to start a new life, religious freedom, etc., etc., etc. But when they got here, they found that even though they were 3,000 miles away, they were still under the rule of a tyrant who imposed taxation without representation. And that ultimately led to the American Revolution and the creation of the United States of America. Now, initially, we were not united initially, but we eventually became united.
That's us.
Yeah, apparently he bought one.
All right. So anyway.
But to make a long story short, when you talk about what's happened in this country, people look at Donald Trump and they think he's a king. Well, I don't think Donald Trump looked at you and told you to put a mask on.
Nope.
No kings.
Didn't shut your church
No
down
kings,
either.
but put your mask on. No kings, but locked us down for what?
Well, you've already
He
got
didn't shut your churches down. He did. Trump's not shut small businesses down and allowed big box office or big box stores to continue working.
I've got a list here.
Yeah, I actually had the list.
Put your mask on.
Go ahead.
Locked us down. I'm firing you for not getting
the vaccine,
the shot. No kings, but you need 12,380 boosters.
That's right.
I mean, it's just one.
That's
and like
right.
I said, it is what it is. No kings, but we're shutting down small businesses here in America. But we're going to allow major corporations to stay open.
As long as you walk the little old path that they line up for, you can run into Walmart or you want.
I can go further.
Keep it going.
No kings, but you can't worship the real king. If you notice something, they closed down churches.
Right here
in this community, churches were closed down.
And our wonderful governor, even which was mentioned in the comments moments ago, he even actually put it out to where he wanted the law enforcement going and getting license plates.
I've got that on here. No kings, but I'm going to open a hotline so that you can tattle on your neighbor.
That's it.
No kings, but your family members will die alone. If you remember, people at rest homes could not.
Trump was taking taxpayers' dollars and giving breaks to illegals either, and not the citizens of the United States.
No kings, but you got a social distance at how many feet?
6 feet.
6 feet. And then it changed from 6 feet to 3 feet. It just kept the rules.
Then it was one mask and two masks, and Then if you take the jab, you don't have to do it. Then now you do have to do it. I mean,
First, you had to miss 14 days of work too.
Yeah,
And
they
then
did.
let me give you another one. No kings, but no family gatherings over.
What was it?
Remember the number? You were not allowed to have more than 10 people in a family gathering. So, as much as these people think Donald Trump is a tyrant and a monarch imposing his will on America, he's not imposed any of these restrictions on you. Those were imposed on you by Dr. Anthony Fauci and the National Institutes of Health. The but you talk about Donald Trump. He's been
Well, like she
president.
also said too, in the beginning, if you caught COVID, you had to stay off of work for 14 days and had to have a doctor's excuse that says you tested negative for it now before they. So if you tested positive on the 14th day, you still had to stay off until you tested negative. You may go 3 or 4 weeks and miss work, no pay, no nothing.
Oh, you think about kids.
And
Think
yet,
about,
but yet Trump's the king.
Yeah, but I haven't even mentioned kids. Okay, we closed down schools. Kids
For
were
about a year,
and teachers had to completely
at least a year and a
change
half or something.
the way they instructed and presented content to students, which was not easy at all. Okay, they destroyed athletic careers. Kids that were, opportunity to win state championships, opportunity to win championships as teams were destroyed.
And then you had Dayton University that probably would have been a Final Four team that year that didn't even get a play in the tournament.
It's not only from a personal perspective, it's also from an athletic perspective. Life changed during COVID, but who were the tyrants that closed these things down? They were your state governors.
They were your officials of your.
Ron DeSantis didn't close Florida down. And what happened to Florida? A lot of people did what? They picked up and moved to Florida. Greg Abbott didn't close down Texas.
So what? Dakotas, was it South?
Yeah, it's Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem. Noem, is that her name? Noem. She allowed.
She's the security secretary or something. She's
She's
something other now in the cabinet up there.
She's Department of Homeland Security.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So what happened was you had some governors that took.
I think Tennessee governor
had a more realistic approach.
Yeah.
And you had others that were more restrictive.
But this was one of them here.
Okay, you talk about Andy Beshear. Andy Beshear, in my opinion, has done a lot of things that have drawn controversy to him.
Also getting sued.
Okay, right now the Department of Justice is suing him because he basically allowed illegal aliens to get college tuition
on the taxpayer dollars.
On the taxpayers' dollars, and you've got people in this country that are U.S. citizens that can't get college tuition.
Matthew, is it not a violation of the Constitution to do taxation without representation?
It is.
So that would be taxation without representation. When you're taking people who pay taxes in and giving their money to someone who has not paid any taxes in, differently than what you give to the people who've actually paid, that's taxation without representation.
Well, I say this, Andy Beshear. And like I said, I'm not saying he's good or bad. That's not my opinion to decide because, we all have our own opinion of him. He is our governor. But one thing I do know is that it is written in law that no state can be allowed to treat Americans like second-class citizens in their own country by offering people that are not citizens benefits that you're not giving to.
Yet they do.
Yet they do it.
Even on a national level.
Yeah. So it's state and federal. And it creates a lot of controversy, And what's happening is you don't hear this stuff. And then when you learn of it, you're disgusted by it because I can name people in this community and various areas that are doing everything they can to go to college, but they can't get college tuition. They're having to go in their own pocket and
go into debt by thousands and thousands of dollars.
And that was another.
But now, if you can play ball pretty good and you got a pretty good name, you can get paid to go to college now. But that's a story for another day.
But you talk about Andy. You talk about Andy Beshear. What did Andy do for he attempted to jail churchgoers in the state of Kentucky on Easter Sunday. It's a fact that he ordered police officers to do what?
To come and take down
write down license plate numbers and issue prosecution notices.
Which is a violation of the Constitution.
That's exactly
itself,
right.
Because you have freedom of religion.
He also weaponized the government to prevent you from leaving Kentucky even for work. You weren't allowed to leave Kentucky during that time. But I am going to tell you,
Shut down the state lines or
yeah,
something other
yeah,
like that.
he got sued for that. I don't know if y'all know that or not. There was a court
He didn't
case.
really stop us. I think about July of that year, we went to Florida.
There was a court
We was
case.
wondering when we got to the Tennessee line if it was going to be like shut down, but it was open. We just kept going.
There was a gentleman in the state of Kentucky that actually sued Andy Beshear. His last name was Roberts. The case is called Roberts versus Beshear. He sued Andy Beshear because he wasn't allowed to leave the state to go to work, which prevents him from being able to pay his bills and raise his family. So, going further, Andy Beshear weaponized the government and tried to prosecute and jail people who protested against his lockdowns. But even though he took part in activities, he was spotted at a
He was
spotted at a baseball
he
game
was
up in
spotted at a
Ohio.
baseball
He was
game.
also on the Capitol lawn.
He was on the Capitol lawn
without
hugging
a
people
mask.
without a mask on and on TV every day at 4 o'clock telling people you have to wear your mask if you walk out into your grass here in the yard. But him standing there hugging people on the lawn at the Capitol. That's what I'm saying, dude. That's when things started changing. He told people they couldn't vacation. You can't go to Florida. You can't go to Myrtle Beach. And then I'll be darned if you don't turn around and he ain't in Florida on a beach with his family. And it's like, well, dude, if you're going to go, everybody else is going to go.
Sure didn't help the people of Eastern Kentucky when the floods happened.
But you think about it. Some states, like I said, go back to what I said. Some states were less restrictive on their citizens. They allowed people to live their lives. And I'm not saying COVID wasn't dangerous, but what I'm going to look at you and tell you is, I am going to look at you and tell you that um, we all lived through it. We made it through it. Some did not. Some did not. And that's the tragic part of it. The people that didn't make it through. The fact that, some people had to watch their loved ones die in a hospital alone. That should not happen to anybody. Anybody. And that's the sad part of this, where you had nursing homes. Nursing homes, another good example.
Oh my
They weren't
goodness,
allowed to
those
have
poor
visitors.
people.
I feel so bad
And they need that.
for nursing home people because, right before that, which, Ethel that I used to dance with and stuff, we did a line dance. She used to go to the nursing home here in West Liberty and do like line dancing for the folks. And, the people loved that stuff. But during COVID, you weren't allowed to be around. You couldn't even see them. Now, somehow there toward the end, they'd allow you to go like wave out them through the window. But at first, you couldn't even be nowhere near that place. And then these people were getting sick, and then they were passing away, and nobody around. Hospital. If one of us four was sitting here right now and COVID hit, and one of us went to the hospital, the other three couldn't be nowhere. Even if like him, I couldn't even go to the. I'd have to sit in the parking lot, and him in there, them doing whatever.
So weird.
I just think people are so quick to forget what happens to them. Yes, we want to move on from COVID, but we can't forget what happened.
Yeah, just for 5 years ago.
You look at
So,
what necessary. Okay, I say the word necessary. Were they necessary or unnecessary precautions? Because there's a debate, Mike. It depends upon who you talk to, what scientists you deal with, and you investigate.
If I go to the hospital, I don't want to be in the hospital. But if I'm sick and something's wrong with me, I don't want to be there by myself. I want someone who loves and cares about me to help me with my decisions and stuff like that, right?
Okay, like
but
scientific.
Melina's son, I remember her and Mark having to take him down there. They had to drive. He's only 21, I think, at that time. They had to drop him off at the hospital while they sat in the parking lot waiting on him to make choices, whether he wanted to take treatments and stuff that there was a lot of controversy over. And he was a young kid.
Well, and then at that particular time, the media was downplaying certain things like like ivermectin. Ivermectin was, they basically laughed at Americans and said, we can't believe that you would take horse paste. Well, it's not horse paste. Ivermectin comes in a pill form. The guy that actually created it in 1995 won a Nobel Peace Prize, for an achievement for what he did. So what I'm going to look at you and tell you is, we were misinformed because we were told in this country, Mike, that if you get vaccinated, and I'm not saying that there probably wasn't some, but it did not happen to all. We were told that if you got vaccinated, you would not get COVID. However, I can name you probably 25 people that rushed to get the vaccine, rushed to get the vaccine, doing their part, thinking that it's going to what? Keep them safe, and that they're not going to get COVID. And they did it for various reasons. They didn't want to quarantine. You would agree with that. They didn't want that 14-day quarantine, because I'm vaccinated. But yet they still end up getting COVID. Some of them got it multiple times. Some of them got it 3-4 times.
Well, you were told too, if you wear a mask, you could do anything you wanted. Then the vaccine, if you get the vaccine, you could take the mask off and do anything you want. And then people just kept getting sick. And it's like, well, now you got to wear 2 masks, take 4 shots and a booster shot, stay 10 feet away. Well, maybe now you can be arm's length away. Take your mask off only if you're vaccinated. And, we were at the lake the other day at the spillway. Now, it could be old. I mean, I'm not saying it's not. But there's still a piece of paper, looks kind of new to me, still hanging in like a display case down at the spillway at Cave Run that says, stay 6 feet away and social distance if you're not vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you can carry on about your day here at the park. And it's like, now, like I said, that could be old.
But here's the reality.
But it's still hanging there.
Here's one of the things that we probably tend to not think about is the repercussions from all this. What's it done from a social standpoint for most kids? It's put a lot of those
they
kids.
Were very socially awkward for a while.
It put them behind for a while.
We got some breaking news here. Josh broke it here for the comments, but Donald J. Trump himself has released the United States has completely, very successfully attacked 3 nuclear sites in Iran. So the United States has attacked.
Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, it says.
Josh had mentioned that I saw in the comments, and I just happened to refresh the page, and here's Trump's actual Twitter account where he's actually showing. So, I mean, well, I don't know if I can bring this up here where everybody can see it, but I mean, there it is. I mean, like I said, he's calling for peace there. I don't know. I mean, Iran, when they were bombed by Israel, they retaliated. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm already starting to see people on X here, Twitter, saying we just bombed Iran. This is not what I voted for. So here we go. Here come the negative Nancys. We're going to start.
They probably didn't vote for him anyway.
This one did. But this is one of our more conservative sites. What the heck was that? But anyway.
I pretend to know what his chess moves are.
But I mean, at the same time, he also came out, 2 days ago and said, I'm giving them 2 weeks. And then yesterday, he's like, well, I said 2 weeks, but I didn't tell you when. So, he made them think it would be in 2 weeks, and then boom, here we are. And I don't know. The real kings.
I'm at a loss for words. I would have thought we would have done everything in our power to try to mediate that.
Well, I mean, at the same time, though, you talked about it at the beginning of the program, how you thought it may not happen and stuff. And, but one of the things we also talk about at the beginning of the program is how we will bring you facts and stuff. And, we're not going to come on here and bull crap you and give you a bunch of fake stuff, So, there you go. I mean, I saw Josh put that, and I'm like, well, I've got it pulled up here. So I just clicked on it to see, when I refreshed it, there it was.
I
I see somebody on here that's saying if they bomb them places, does all that stuff go into the air? All the
Oh, where they bombed the nuclear
chemicals
site?
and all.
Where they bombed the nuclear site? I really don't know how that works. Do you have any idea how that works? I don't know. I've never dealt with anything when it comes to nuclear stuff. So I don't know.
Trump, now the bomber in chief.
Trump said no one would know when he went in. Well, I mean that's probably true there.
Well, you don't want to tell.
You don't want to come on national television and say, "Well, I'll be over there on July the 3rd," because you can't do it on July the 4th because we got a No Kings protest scheduled for that day, the second one.
They keep saying that they're bombing those places, not killing people. There has to be people there in those
Nuclear reactors.
Yeah, there has to be somebody
Workers.
working.
They'd have to be workers.
Has to be people working it. I mean, there ain't no other way.
But let me say something. This is not the first president to bomb something. I think a lot of times people think that. I think they think, well, Trump promised this, he promised that. And I agree, but they must have done something to substantiate that they have those nuclear power plants. I'm a firm believer. I just don't. I firmly believe they don't have them, and this goes against what I believe. But as I said, uh, American interest. He's going to put American interest above all else. And we can't allow you can't allow certain people in the world to have the potential to have the threat over you and the power over you and have the ability to bully you.
Nora said, did they use the bunker buster?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, this is just happening, just since we come on the air. We didn't even have it in our notes.
That means taxes are going to go up to rebuild Iran.
Well, you can about bet that probably when that bomb hit, gas prices are going to go up.
Gas prices will probably go up by morning after that because Iran's a major supplier, of oil and stuff.
It ain't already hurting people.
Yeah.
But in the morning, you wait and see, or Monday.
Well, from what I was told, I actually just, in my earpiece, it said that the sausage biscuits at McDonald's have doubled in price. So you're going to be struggling, buddy.
I can't get none of them. Trump's done took all.
Little Larry and his breakfast. I'm afraid to refresh the page now. I don't know what this. I guess in Brazil, they had a hot air balloon go up today in Brazil, and it caught fire and blew up, or something. I don't know.
Attack inside Iran. Just moments ago, President Donald Trump putting out on Truth Social, we have completed our very successful attack on 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of Iran airspace. Again, this from President Donald Trump. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes.
I mean, well, basically, just what we'd already heard. From the Post. So, I mean, we'll see where we go from there. But what we got going on?
Like I said, it has the ability to escalate into something, extremely, extremely dangerous. But,
So, you ready for the 4th of July event?
Yeah.
The second coming? Yeah. Be right over here, be the second one. Now, see, I don't know. That bothers me, too, because they did that first one on the 250th birthday of the Army. Now they're going to do the second one on our Independence Day. Now, boys, I mean, something's wrong here. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, just do it on a random week when there's nothing. But doing it on our national holidays, doing it on the day we got our independence, July the 4th. That's telling you right there that these people hate America. They hate the country they live in, and these are Americans that are going to these. This ain't all illegals and stuff that are going to these. They're Americans. These are all American citizens. That are going to this, and it's like, how do you hate your country so much that you will protest the independence of the country? I mean, it's like, or the birthday of a military branch. I mean, 250 years of the Army. I mean, you basically said the country's 250-year-old itself. So, the Army's been around as long as the country has.
Well, the Continental Army is what allowed us to defeat the powerful British Redcoats, and under George Washington's commandership. And then he goes on to be first president of the United States, 1789. It's been around a long time, folks. But like I said, people are protesting no kings, and I think they're pointing the finger at the wrong person. We got people in government. Let's talk about Trump.
When we got our Independence Day, Donald Trump was like all of us. He wasn't even thought of.
Kamala was their choice was the person on their ticket, and they didn't even choose her. They was given her.
Well, you talk about Donald Trump. He's been in office 4 years and 5 months. Okay, you've got people like Joe Biden, who was in office for 48 plus years in Congress and in the presidency, vice president and president of the United States. And, what does he have to show for it? I mean, I'm not being mean when I say that. What did he do that got him so much fame and acclaim? 81 million votes. What did he do? Okay, we know that the mass media, mainstream media, lied to us, Mike. They told us for 4 years that he was of great mental health and his physical conditioning was that to be the president. All of a sudden, we now know he is what? He's terminally ill.
Terminally ill.
And we don't wish that on nobody. But they tell you one thing when the actual truth is another.
So that is not the boat that you want to put on the water right there.
It's been burned up.
That's what I'm saying. That's not the boat.
But, Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's been in Congress 44 plus years. Mitch McConnell, senator from the state of Kentucky, he's been there 40 plus years. Nancy Pelosi's been there 38 plus years. Bernie Sanders, probably the most famous congressman in Washington, has been there 34 plus years in Congress. And they're talking about Donald Trump being a king. He's not a king. He just come in, he's following the Constitution. And that is the groundwork and the basic premises from which he is allowed his power. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's doing it everything by the book. But I will say this, Mike. Seems like every time he turns around and he does something, you have a federal judge in this country that what? Issues an injunction, a stay, a reprieve of some sort to prevent actions from being taken. Now, I go back to this. 148 Democrats this past week voted to allow illegals to vote in the elections. 148 Democrats voted to allow illegal aliens to vote in the election. Why would they do that, Mike?
Well, you got to have the illegals. I mean, to be able to run them votes up.
Well, and plus, what it does is, okay, we've had riots for the last 2 weeks out in California. If Donald Trump goes in there and arrests every illegal person in the state of California alone, it will cost California, with population, 2 congressional seats and 2 electoral votes. That means a lot because they have the ability to alter the laws in this country.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a couple of weeks back. How is if you have all these illegals in these certain districts and you remove them from the voting registry, a lot of your seats would change.
Well, here's the issue.
Because they wouldn't be able to keep the same people in there.
It's based on the census. Every 10 years, there's a census that's conducted. They do a statistical account of everybody that's in that state, whether they're citizens or non-citizens or legals, whatever. They're all counted in that. And that's what they call apportionment, and that determines the number of legislators that you have that will represent you in Washington. Kentucky has 6 reps, 2 senators. Every state gets 2 senators. Apportionment is for the House of Representatives. It can increase or it can decrease based on your population. So when you start talking about all these things, Mike, when you look at this, where did most of these illegals set up? They set up in sanctuary cities, primarily in blue or red states.
Blue.
There you go.
California is a big one.
Chicago,
New York, Chicago,
Denver, Colorado,
Denver, and Colorado's real big. Trying to think of
Arizona, Phoenix. You know, when you look at the map, so most of those sanctuary cities were used to house illegals, and what ends up happening is when the census is conducted, if they're here, they're counted in that, and what it does is it increases their numbers of seats in the House of Representatives in Washington D.C., and that can change the laws in this country. That can change the premises by which we live our everyday life. So you can say, well, that doesn't matter. Yeah, it does, because they have the ability, if they have power in numbers, to get legislation passed that can either, one, eliminate laws, or two, introduce new laws that are more, I would call, left-wing strategy.
Trying to see if we got any more updates on the Iran situation. Not seeing anything right now. But yeah, I mean, like you talking about, moments ago there.
Well, I said on one of these previous programs, and this has been many, many years ago, that there would be a World War III scare. You remember me saying that?
Yeah.
We're there, Mike.
We're there.
We're there.
Well, I mean, you've got Iran and Israel, and now us. You've got Russia and Ukraine.
You'll have
probably North and South Korea.
You're going to probably also have countries like Great Britain, Germany, that will take sides. So, I told you that I thought there would be a World War III scare many, many, many years ago. We're there. We're there. We're there right now. And those events will transpire. Let's hope and pray that doesn't escalate into an all-out global catastrophe where nuclear weapons.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not going to be like it was back in 1945, or the 1940s and the late 30s. There won't be as many feet on the ground. Boots on the ground.
No, it'll be more.
Now it's more. I've got nukes. You got nukes. We're going to see who can blow things up the most. They'll be shooting back and forth and blowing things up, and the big booms. Someone a minute ago put fireworks. That's what it will be.
Russia's got a hypersonic missile.
Yeah, so, they could travel around the country, the whole world in a few minutes' time, pretty much. I mean, wasn't it North Korea? North Korea has a missile over there right now that can reach California. If they fired it right now, it could come all the way from North Korea across the Pacific, and would be able to reach California. So I mean, that's my point. A lot of these countries that do have nuclear weapons and all that stuff, and most of them are already involved with something now, or could be any day. That's what I believe too. I believe that's what a World War III would be. It would be more of airstrikes, more bombs, and then eventually the big ones. They start hitting the nuclear stuff on the summer. Probably mainly your bigger cities and a lot of your.
Well, let's hope I'm hoping and praying that doesn't happen, because, like I said, I don't think the outcome is good for anybody. I just hope and pray that the world leaders see fit that they could sit down at a table and through diplomacy could come up with a resolution without having to see innocent lives be the ultimate cost.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. I mean, but we'll, we have to wait and see, what happens there. Hopefully they'll all come together like you mentioned earlier, and there'll be a peace talk and stuff between those countries, and things will calm down before it escalates into a global a global war. Sounds like a wild kingdom around here. Every chicken out there is hollering and going on. I'm just see if we got anything that's going that we can pull up here real fast. I saw something. Hang on here. Did you guys see the? Did you guys see the sheriff down in Florida? The one that basically told the people that if they started attacking these officers and stuff, that they would shoot them. I thought that was pretty neat. He's like, "We'll be notifying your families because we will kill you. You will go to jail. This and that." I mean, I like that. So I thought that was pretty neat. Let's try to go down some things here. See if I can.
Well, if you remember back during COVID, we had a lot of racial issues going on in this country during that particular time, and you had buildings, federal buildings, and towns and cities being burned and looted, and same thing's going on out in California right now. And you've got certain factions that are somewhat encouraging that type of behavior. And I'm just like, man, you can't encourage that type of behavior. Somebody's going to get hurt, somebody's going to get killed. Well, Donald Trump has basically conveyed that he would call in the National Guard, bring in the Marines if necessary to clean it up, because you can't allow federal buildings and property owners to be destroyed by people just wanting to have a
Well,
good
I
time.
want to think out there in California. You were talking about the judges are blocking. I think there was a judge that blocked something of his about removing the National Guard from out there, from LA. And I'm like, are you serious? These people, I mean, it looks like a war zone. They're out here. They're setting cars on fire. They're stomping people. I mean, they're
When there's
attacking people.
videos online of people where I saw a video where there was a line of police cars going down the street. And the guy was taking rocks and throwing rocks and just.
But they're saying they're peaceful. It's like, that's not peaceful, people. I mean, you've got Maxine Waters and all them out there.
Kamala, and
Out there hollering, this is peaceful. I don't know why. We're sending all these troops and stuff out here, and we're going to attack American people. Honey, these American people are attacking people. They're going up and like taking fire bombs or whatever you would call them and throwing them on police cars and
You ever
setting them on
noticed
fire.
Mike, about like when they have these riots, how they have these big stacks of bricks just lying around everywhere? And you're sitting there going, how does that just happen? Somebody had to bring that stuff in. Somebody had to buy that to try to encourage that type of behavior.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always weird that anytime you have a big protest like that, that stuff's already there. It's like me and you went to one. You roll in at 6 o'clock in the morning. There's a big stack of bricks over here laying sitting there. It's like, where did that? How did that get there? I mean, who's bringing that in there for you?
And it's encouraging that type of behavior. And with that type of behavior, somebody's going to end up.
But then they holler and go on that it's peaceful protest. It's not peaceful protest. I mean, when you're getting hurt, getting shot, getting beat up, different things. Melina said Summer of Love 2025. Oh, look at here. Watch here. Probably break the rest of my stuff off.
Yeah, thank you. Well, but I don't know. I find it odd that these people just randomly show up out of nowhere, and they can abandon their families and they can leave their jobs behind and forget to pay their bills, and they can go out there and destroy stuff for weeks upon weeks. And
ain't it odd that you can just stand out there for weeks and never go to work and never have the money to have to do anything? I don't understand that.
It's almost like they're getting paid to do it.
I would almost guarantee it. It's either that or they're reading somehow or another. They've got some kind of funds coming somehow. Because I would imagine if me and you walked off of our jobs and just disappeared for weeks at a time to go out there and stand and act like idiots in the street, then we probably wouldn't have a job to come back to.
They'd probably fire you.
Yeah, I don't.
Probably fire you.
I see here some news coming out that FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said they've arrested 449 child sex predators and rescued 224 kids within 2 operations. This is what I voted for. That's why, that right there is amazing. But that's also a lot of the reasons I think they tried to keep Dan Bongino off of that FBI stuff. This ad right here, this is an ad, I saw it last night, that Democrats are running and making fun of the conservatives. So I wanted to play this ad for you guys here. I want you to see this is how desperate they are right now.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really like.
What are you doing? She's coming with us. What are you talking about? Who are you? I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
No, I mean, seriously, how desperate could you be to put that ad out there? I mean, obviously you're scared of something. But basically what that ad is making fun of the Trump administration and saying, hey, even if you look like an illegal, if you look like someone with a foreign accent or you're from a foreign descent, we're going to round you up and take you out of here. That don't work that way. It don't work that way. I mean, that shows you how ignorant they really are, because it don't work that way. I mean, they just don't come up and just grab you and say, whatever. I mean, me and you are Guatemalans, I mean, we've not ever get across the border. We've not got across the border yet and get our money and all of our free stuff. But I mean, we need to try, I guess. But yeah, I saw that.
My question is this: I that's the first time I've ever seen that ad. The first thing that comes to my mind, the first question is, you said, what are they afraid of? Why do they hate Trump so bad? Because he is what they are not. He is a businessman. He can't be controlled. He's going to follow the T of the law. And I know people are going to say he's a king. He's not following the Constitution. He's rewriting
If he was
the
a king, every one of us would be bowing. We would have to come on here, bow down, and ask for permission to even do a live video. No, this is America.
A lot of people think that people that are avid supporters of the Make America Great movement are worshiping Trump. You're not worshiping Trump. You are just a supporter and an advocate for the ideas that he is promoting.
Well,
America first.
They get mad at a hat that says MAGA. So
you're right.
And I feel like as someone who is a MAGA and stuff, we still have the ability to decide if we agree with something.
What does MAGA stand for?
Make America Great Again.
Make America Great Again.
What's wrong with that?
Shouldn't every American in this country, no matter what, Democrat, Republican, Independent, black, white, purple, no matter your nationality, if you're an American citizen, wouldn't you want to make America great?
There's some
that's what I don't understand is what's so mad about that.
Well, I think a lot of people lose sight of why people migrate to the United States in the first place. We as citizens sometimes take those freedoms for granted. But there are people around this world that are doing everything they can. They'll risk life and limb. Every day we catch boat people, Mike, off the coast of Cuba or off the coast of Florida, coming from Cuba to the United States to escape communism, so that they can come here, Mike, and have an opportunity to enjoy religious freedom, the opportunity to get a job that can better themselves, that they can have a family, They can have public education. You know, there's a lot of good things that America is and stands for. But a lot of people just lose sight of that, and and I just don't get it. You know, I think you're right, 100% right. Everybody should be fighting to make this place better for the next generation of people.
Well, my thing is that I can tell you if Trump does something that I don't particularly agree with, I'm okay with telling you that. But I feel like sometimes on the other side, they have a really hard time acknowledging that someone might not be making good decisions. It's like if they do, they're ready to boot them out. It's kind of like Simba and who was the other, Joe Manchin. When they were making their choices. They didn't exactly agree, but they voted with the Republicans. Sometimes it was like, okay, they got to go to another party. They're horrible. That was their opinion.
Okay, well, the example that should be given right now is the two legislators in the state of Minnesota.
I was actually headed there.
Okay.
That's where I was headed.
You know, you've got two people that voted with
the
Republican Party. They crossed party lines.
Now, how the hell do you get? I can understand maybe getting a police uniform. How do you get a police cruiser?
Yeah, someone explain.
How do you get a hold of a police cruiser and just drive up to these people's doorsteps and knock on their door and then just shoot them?
I just think it seems like a coincidence that those are the two that voted with Republicans, and that's who.
Well, I've got some news right here about that, and this came out yesterday. Minnesota assassin Vance Bolter reportedly told FBI in a letter that Tim Walz asked him to kill Senator Amy Klobuchar so that he could take her seat. He told the FBI that
actually in a letter. So
he's the one that survived.
Minnesota is one of the other sanctuary places that we forgot to mention a minute ago. And that's what I'm saying. You know, Tim Walz, this guy is saying that Tim Walz told him to do it.
In a letter that was written to the FBI prior to him undertaking these crimes, where he killed Melissa Hortman and her husband, and then opened fire on John Hortman and his wife and shot them 17 times. One was shot 8 times and one was shot 9 times. And then there was an all-out, all-points bulletin manhunt to find him.
There was a shootout, I reckon, with the police in the beginning, and then, you know, it was about 2 or 3 days, wasn't it, or something other that he was on the run and they were trying to find him.
That's what I'm saying, is that you can't say something's like a Cygnus magnet when you've got stuff that happens like this. It's like you can't disagree with them. For me, I think everyone has opinion. You can say it.
Well, no, I mean, a Republican would get, just like that shooting there, the first thing's going to come out, that's a Trump supporter. He's a Trump supporter or whatever. You know, that's what.
This wasn't a Walz supporter. This wasn't a Walz appointee. Walz appointed him to the governor's Workforce Development Board in 2019. They appointed him. He is under state and federal charges.
Who is?
This criminal,
but
Vance.
Walz is not.
No, Walz. No, but there needs to be an investigation conducted to determine whether or not there's any validity to this. Because if there's validity,
then he needs to be held accountable.
He needs to be held accountable. But I guarantee you, if someone said Trump did that,
you know that
they would probably be all over that, and then some.
Well, just like this gentleman here in the video that's currently playing here. I'll bring it right up here. I know everybody's probably seen it by now. Let me get you back here to one of our peaceful protests. This guy charges up. They hit him with that. He keeps coming toward them, provoking the horses. This cop pushes him back into the crowd. Now they're calling for the cop to be fired because he pushed him. I've never been through police training. I've never been a cop. But I've always learned that if you forcefully approach a cop with a weapon or anything and they feel threatened, they have the authority to do whatever means necessary to protect themselves. This guy was attacking a police horse, and they hit him with the baton once. He just kept coming back, and then the guy pushed him. Now they started hollering and trying to get the guy fired. The cop that pushed him. I mean, that's idiotic.
So
I mean,
are they claiming police brutality?
well,
Is that what they're claiming? I mean,
I don't know exactly what it was, but I mean, I do know they was hollering for that guy to be taken
they're
and lose
by
his job.
the Constitution, by Amendment 1, you have the right to petition, you have the right to protest, and there'll be nobody in this country say a word to you as long as it does not turn violent. Once it turns violent, it goes from a protest to a riot, and then that's when law enforcement agents have the ability to do whatever means is necessary
Right.
to get people to abide by
Which now
the
people
law.
would probably look at me and you and say, "You all are anti-protest." No, we're not. I mean,
You want to protest? Protest.
You'll never hear me ever say anything about you protesting.
I actually attended one in Frankfurt.
But
2A.
if you've got bricks and you're slinging them at vehicles when they're driving by,
throwing rocks
and standing in the middle of the road blocking
burning
traffic,
buildings,
then you get arrested, or somebody like Governor DeSantis said down in Florida, if you get out in the middle of the road and you get run over, that's your fault. It's not the people's fault because you don't need to be there. I mean, and they were calling for him to be, to be taken out of the governor's seat because.
Well, you look at the protests
Seriously?
that happened in the 1960s. Okay, African Americans in this country are fighting admirably for the plight to have equality. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his supporters did peaceful marches. What I'm going to look at you and tell you is they were wrongfully targeted by police officers with brutality. Why? Because the South didn't want to change things back. They wanted to stay the same. But the North was more compliant to giving rights to people of ethnic minority. They were willing to do it. So they fought admirably. They marched peacefully. They didn't do anything to bring, you hear people say, well, they brought negative attention to themselves. No, they were doing what their Constitution says they can do. They have the right to march. They have the right to unite together behind a cause. And their plight was that they wanted to be viewed as equals in every avenue they possibly could. And I'm 100% for that. The only problem I've got is when you've got radical groups that take to the streets and think, okay, I can burn this building down, I can destroy this personal property. And that personal property belongs to somebody. Well, I saw that somebody in Trump's administration came out and stated that the United States government would not be giving these sanctuary cities restitution to pay for the damages incurred by these protesters. They are not going to do it. That
So I
taxpayers' dollars is not going to be spent there. Why?
I think when the right side protests, it's not like that because they don't protest very often. I don't think the right side protests very often, but there was one where they were trying to do, they were trying to put those red flag laws in, which would have, if I say you did something to me, your rights are immediately, your guns are automatically gone without any kind of investigation or anything. So
people can be falsely accused of something
Right.
without due process.
So that was something
It's not
Kentucky
fair.
did
It's
not
not fair.
want. Virginia put it in. Kentucky did not want it. And I will tell you that I went to Frankfurt and there were tons of people. They were all over the Capitol lawn. But they were peacefully organized. They were talking. They were there to state that they were not for 2A laws.
You didn't throw anything, or
Didn't throw anything.
didn't set anything
light
on fire.
Didn't. Thomas Massey talked, and everybody was very cheering and happy.
Like you
I
didn't
took my
hang
kid
like
there.
a.
That's how peaceful
Okay,
it was.
good example. Another good example.
You
okay?
didn't hang mannequins from trees or anything like that.
Governor Bevins was going to. He inherited a problem. An unbalanced budget. Money is taken from the Kentucky teacher retirement system. It's spent on governmental projects. It was supposed to be. It was supposed to be reimbursed, and it was not. And he found himself in a die-hard situation where he had to make some very difficult decisions in order to get a balanced budget. And one of those was, we're going to eliminate the pension system for public employees. Well, public employees gathered at the Capitol. They were peaceful. They just went there, and I was there. I went, and there were a lot of educators, a lot of educators at the Capitol, and you got to see different school districts come together, people come together as educators fighting for their pensions that were misjustly taken from them by a governor who wanted to invest it in construction and infrastructure projects. He didn't ask us for that, the right to do that, but he promised us that that money would be reimbursed, and it wasn't. That's what's unfair. And it just wasn't teachers. It was all Kentucky employees. And you're dealing with people's livelihood. You know, you've worked 25, 30 years. You want to be able to retire and have something to show for it and live comfortably and not have to work till you're 90 years
Teacher's
old.
pension was supposed to be secure though, because when I was Kentucky State and everyone was like, switch over to teachers because it's more safe, and then that happened, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll switch over. But I will tell you this: that the media tried to turn around that 2A gathering. There was a group of boys in the Capitol, and they took pictures. Media had them get together, and they were saying Wolverine. And if you all watched, what is it?
Red Dawn.
Red Dawn. The Wolverines.
Right. So they were saying,
basically they were defending their homeland
they
or
were
whatever
saying
the others.
Wolverines as just just kind of as a joke and stuff like that. But the media was really taking.
Well, the media is going to blow everything out of proportion.
Pictures, and then they tried to act like that gathering was not peaceful. I was there with my child who was underage, and there was nothing. I was never scared at any moment.
But now the question that I have to ask is for this gentleman, because he went to the protest at the Capitol. Are you the ringleader of Antifa?
No, I am not.
Are you the creator of it? Did you create that whole thing?
No, no, no. But you know,
you just don't see it on the right. You just don't see that, like you said.
Usually, when you see it on the other side, it's for something that's meaningful, something that is just not right, something that I mean, I'm not saying that everybody done this on the right, but I mean, we'll say Herdman Field or the Water District stuff. It was a mixture of everybody. Yeah. But I mean, when people come together, to voice their disconcerns on things, they're not up there. They're asking questions. They're not up there throwing things and stuff like that.
I feel like throwing bricks and burning buildings is going to.
It ain't going to help nothing. It's going to hurt you more than it is anything else, because you're going to get caught. That's what I'm saying. It's just idiotic. Unless you're in some of those states. And then, you like we talked about, when you was gone, some of those states, it's ironic how these bricks just happen to show up.
Well, you remember
on these roadsides and stuff, and then when these cops roll in, you're slinging these bricks at them and stuff.
Well, you remember this, Mike? I would say that some of your viewers probably remember it. A couple of years ago, when a group of people settled in Oregon, I want to say it was Oregon, they just took up a whole block of that city, created their own mini city, and just, I mean, I can't remember if it was, they called
damaged federal buildings and everything.
Yeah, and they just, I mean, the police couldn't come in there and do anything to them, and it was just a total free-for-all. And I'm sitting there going, if me and you did that, what would happen?
Well, we'd be arrested.
We'd be arrested
or shot or anything,
Him and Larry did it last Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Well, that's correct. That's correct. Last Saturday we had 191 blocked off here. It only lasted about 4 seconds, and we about got run over, and we got to take out of the road.
I can't see you get ran over.
People probably thought you all were just stragglers in the road.
Like, these people here, there's something wrong with these guys.
That's crazy.
We just run over them and get on down the road. But I don't know, man. It's just this country's in a bad place right now when it comes to stuff like that. I mean, we got a guy who's not a king, but so many, like I said, think he is. Like I said, if we were run by a king, we wouldn't have the freedom to do this. Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that would not exist, because you would have to have a king's permission to do any of that stuff. You would have to get permission to even do a live video. I mean, that's what people don't understand. When you're ruled by a king, you do what the king tells you to do. And they think because, some of us get on here and say, hey, we voted for Trump, that we're in some kind of cult or militia type thing, that we're just running around, all of us just running around with big ARs on our sides and, looking to shoot people and stuff like that. It don't work that way. That's not how it is.
No, I
mean, you come into Eastern Kentucky and start trying to raise trouble, I can't promise you that ain't not what happened to you in some of our hollers in some of these counties. But that's not what it means. There's just as many people on the other side that carry ARs and pistols and stuff like that too, who don't like him, who didn't vote for him. So it's like, you can't. They see the word MAGA on a hat or a shirt, and they'll try to fight you if you're in the right place. You're in a bigger city, you have to be
They'll
in a fist.
provoke too, and I think that's wrong. Just because someone has a hat on, leave them alone. They did it in Lexington. I don't remember what was it. That's been a few years ago. Remember, we saw video and stuff on it. Somebody had a MAGA.
Well, I mean, like right now, this is the month of June. It's Pride Month. If I'm walking down the street with my MAGA hat on, and you're walking down the other side of the street and you've got a Pride hat on, whoop-de-doo. I'm not going to say anything to you about the hat you've got on. You don't say nothing to me about mine. That's America. You have a right to fly that flag, and I have a right. Well, I mean, I don't even know if you can see your flag. Yeah, there's one back there. The reason we're turned this way too is because the old flag right there is about it's about fell off. Until we get it replaced, I don't want to see that old thing in the background. But it looks a little better than the last thing that come through here.
You talk about flags. Donald Trump just recently on the north and south lawns of the White House has put up two big flags. I want to say they're 80 feet. Is it 80 feet wide? Is that what I'm saying? 88. It's 88 feet high. Those big flags are flying. The only way to identify the White House was there's a small flag that stood on top of the White House. So this is a good way.
Well, right there it is. You're seeing it on your.
That's on one side. There's one on the other side as well.
If you look back here in the video here, you can see the other one back here. That's massive. I've never been to the White House, but I'd imagine the White House is pretty tall. It's a pretty tall building, at least 2 or 3 stories
88
tall.
feet high.
And this thing is towering over top of it. I mean, as you can see here in the video, well, I mean, you're trying to stop it right there at the end when it does that little upward turn. So you could see, just how high that thing is. But I mean, that's awesome. I don't think I could put an 80-some foot flagpole here in the yard, but I'd sure try her. So.
And it was at a cost of $50,000 a piece. $55,000.
Well, and I probably won't be doing it then. But
Donald Trump paid for it himself. It was not at the expense of taxpayers. He basically paid for it himself. It's symbolic. It says a lot about America, and there's a meaning behind it, and you just have to figure that out.
Guys, I've got a report here, an absolute wonderful report just came through. Stacy Whitaker just texted me just now and said Shane called him at 8:00 tonight.
Awesome.
He is safe, hanging out in Louisville with his friends. So he has been found. He's safe. He's doing good, and his dad just messaged me and let me know that he's doing good. So that's wonderful. We started off the show with the flyer and everything, and we're really happy about that. I mean, I've actually got chills. I've actually got chills right now. Just thinking that while we've been on the air, we went from talking, about him and saying, which I mean, I'm not saying that it happened because of us, but I mean, just being able to get it out there and saying, hey, that this kid needs to be found. His mom and dad's looking for him, want to talk to him, at least know he's okay. And, he's safe. As of 8:00, he's called his dad and said, I'm good to go. I'm good.
Great
so
news.
That's
Great
wonderful. News. Man. I'm going to have to text Stacy after I get out the air and say, boy, I got chills after he texted me and told me that. Actually, when I seen Stacy text, I'm thinking, Lord, you don't know what that's going to say. You don't know what he's going to say. But he told me he would let me know when he heard from him. So he did, and that's wonderful. And that's what I'm saying. That's what American people are. That's what American citizens and stuff are. We're here to help each other. I mean, we're here. It don't matter. It don't matter who you voted for, who you like. If there's a missing person or someone's sick or, like Joe, Sleepy Joe, we didn't agree with all the stuff with Sleepy Joe, but as soon as he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, we came straight on here and send our prayers, condolences, everything out to that family and stuff. We're not on here to condone that we want anything bad to happen to the old feller. He gave us 4 of the best years we ever had, and when it comes to laughter, and everything. I can't say that it was 4 years of greatness when it comes to the country, but he did give us some moments and stuff and some things that we'll never forget. But we don't come on here and say, yeah, we wish bad things on him, because we don't. And, but yeah, I would like to put an 80-foot flag here in the yard. If I don't even think my yard would hold something like that. Did you see where Arnold Schwarzenegger went on The View and basically just put them in their place?
Donald Trump is scheduled to address the nation at 10 p.m. tonight.
Donald Trump will be addressing the nation in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I saw where they wanted to.
They wanted him to come on there and praise the illegals and everything. And he went on
talk
there
negative about ICE enforcement agents.
He went on there.
And then they saw which direction he was going.
He's like, we don't want you here if you're not here legally, because I had to come legally, because it's what he said.
He spoke about his own.
And I think that's wonderful. I'm out. It is what it is. Even Arnold himself stood up to him. Yeah, they didn't like that. This is hilarious here. This is what happens at the ICE raids. Let me pull this up for you guys. No, you guys probably ain't seen this guy, so here you go.
ICE shot me in the nuts, and now I'm losing a ball. Surgery is tomorrow.
Don't mess with ICE agents. There ain't no promise where you're going to get shot at if you're messing with ICE agents. And then this guy here, Alex Padilla, California senator, was actually removed from the DHS Secretary Nome hearing out there. And he's been on TV now twice, 2 or 3 times last week, crying because they said they put him in handcuffs and everything. But, don't do stupid stuff.
I saw on one of the social media sites where a representative from New Jersey who had displayed discontent at an ICE towards ICE agents is now facing prosecution, looking at possibly 20 to 30 years in prison. This is a member of our government that was protesting that and basically put her hands on ICE agents. And the government is, it's not going to be, it can't be tolerated. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, you don't resort to violence.
Unless it's this time. You're waving the Mexican flag in the streets. Yeah. While I'm thinking about it, did you all see this video of the guy? Let's see, right here, that went up. This is a slow motion video, but he went up to the ICE agents and threw something at them. And then as he turns, a civilian takes him down. Bam. They need to sign that guy up. The guy in the white shirt. They need to sign him up for the WWE or the NFL, one of the two, because that's a perfect. That is perfect. Like, he leveled that guy. So they need to sign him up for WWE or the NFL, either one.
What was that guy's name? Goldberg, the spear. Is that what that looked like? That's what it looked like. Goldberg, the spear. I'm kind of anxious to see what Donald Trump has to say tonight in that press conference. 10 o'clock. See where we're at. What transpired? What changed everything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll find out. That's one good thing that Donald Trump will do. He will tell you, he will shoot you
Well, he's very
straight.
transparent.
He will
You know,
shoot you straight.
he's not going to hide anything. He's going to let people, the American people, know and be upfront and honest with the American people. Why? Because that's what they deserve.
Wanda says, "Have you heard anything about Tyler Perry and in a scandal now?" I saw
Some type
something.
of sexual
I saw
scandal he's
something.
involved
I
in.
saw something about it, but I've not really heard enough about it. It ain't, it ain't broke like a Diddy type thing yet or anything. So I did see something about it, heard something about it, but I haven't. Um, I don't know enough information about it. I know it's some kind of scandal. Yeah.
It was a sexual scandal, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. I can't remember all the details.
There's so much of that stuff starting to happen now. And I always liked Tyler Perry. I mean, and his Medea skits and everything. I mean, I thought they were wonderful.
He was accused of sexual assault by actor Derek Dixon. The Oval actor accusing Tyler Perry of sexual assault in a $260 million over series. Tyler Perry was accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment by actor Derek Dixon, who is suing the Oval series writer, creator, and director for a whopping $260 million over sexual harassment, assault, and retaliation.
So it doesn't really sound like a Diddy type thing, really, as bad, I guess you can say, as a Diddy type thing. I mean, it's more of just like maybe a one-on-one like
Well,
lawsuit or something there may be.
we're probably in about day 7 or 8 of the Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P Diddy. I mean,
Whatever you want to call
he's
it.
got like 7 alias names case, and what you're finding is more and more people are being implicated in the Diddy. What do you call them? The freak offs. That's what he called them. The freak offs. The parties that he had where
Me and you may have to learn how to do the freak off, whatever that means.
well, he supposedly had bottles of baby oil, thousands of
Oh
bottles, but
boy.
I don't think it was baby oil. It might have been a chemical that basically paralyzed people.
Yeah, there ain't
And
no telling.
that allowed him to do very, very
Horrible
horrific
things, yeah.
things to people. And there are going to be a lot of movie stars. There's going to be a lot of music industry. There's going to be a lot of sports stars. There's going to be a lot of politicians that are all implicated and named in this when it all comes out. If they allow it to come out, that's the key.
I don't know.
I think
don't know
sometimes we get bits and pieces of things, and we don't get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We deserve to know what's going on in Hollywood and the music industry and the sporting world. Are these people role models, or are they something to be looked upon as villains and
Well, I'd say once they start looking, they'll find a lot more of them. Guys, I can't officially say, but this was shared on to X, and it says this is one of the nuclear sites that was bombed moments ago, and it looks like it's on fire and leveled. Like I said, I can't confirm for sure, but I mean, because it's just so don't think that was 100% correct, because I don't know if that was or not. I mean, we'll find out more as we go. Like I said, I see a lot of things popping up about the attack over there, but I don't know. I don't want to try to get anything started and it be not factual yet. So we'll at this point, I guess we'll wait for 10 o'clock and see what Trump has to say during his speech to the address to the nation. You said that was at 10.
10 p.m.
So I guess that's where we'll get our actual information and know more about it. I got that on here too. So, 41 seconds ago, actually. Well, I mean, that's what it says. Probably been a few minutes by now, but what you got over there, man?
I mean, we've hit a lot of stuff. I had a lot about the No Kings protest. I had
Well, I mean, that was one of the biggest things. That and well, I guess this Iran, Israel stuff. You know, in the beginning of the program tonight, we talked about, you know, we didn't think the U.S. would get involved, and then while we were on the air, you know, that happened. So,
but we're not privy to all the information either, Mike.
yeah,
We
I
don't
mean, like
know.
I said, we don't
I don't.
know.
They only tell you bits and pieces. So he may have gave them a ultimatum 2 weeks ago. We don't know.
Yeah,
But he's not going to tell his enemies when he's going to strike them.
so, and you wouldn't expect
We've
him
done
to.
that in the past, and every time we've done that in the past, it ended up coming back to kind of bite us in the butt, so to speak. So he made an assurance that when he became president, that he would not forewarn his enemies that we are going to bomb and destroy them. We will just take the necessary precaution to do it when we feel right to do it, and it's unannounced. So, but that you talked about the military parade. Um, I think a lot of people thought that Trump was trying to emulate North Korea. Well, you should have patriotism. You should have nationalistic feelings. When your country is celebrating something that's pretty historic, 250th birthday of the Army, why not celebrate it in grand glory fashion? Bring out a big parade. Let our enemies see our capabilities, our new weapons. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but the press secretary of the United States about 2 days ago announced that the United States was prepared to do whatever was best for American interests. And we had weapons that nobody else had in the world. Nobody had. So, you think about the military capabilities of the United States. What we know is what they let us know. What type of futuristic weapons do we have in our possession? Who's to say?
That's right. That's
right. Who would have ever thought that Israel had an Iron Dome, a futuristic defense system that allows their city to be protected by a force field that can just basically destroy incoming missiles. So, we've given Israel billions and if not trillions of dollars since 1948. So what I'm going to look at you and tell you is if they have that capability, I would say we also potentially probably have that one capability. Because most of the technology they get is probably from us.
Wanda says, which I saw this last night. He told some news medias that they were in danger by just talking to him because they were doing interviews with him as he was getting on the plane or whatever. And that's what he told them. He's like, you're in danger by just talking to me.
Trump said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
here he is giving
the Ayatollah, I guess is what you call him.
Solomon.
Over there in Iran, Trump is public enemy number one. That's where the target is. So that's I think that's why Trump's saying that. You're in danger by talking to me because you're this close to interview me. When I'm public enemy number one with Iran, with the target on my back, and that's because of what was it, Soleimani or something?
Yeah.
That in the first Trump term, he took out the leader of Iran then, and here we are again. So I think they're trying to.
But we have, as many enemies as we have in the Middle East, we also have a lot of alliances. I think people don't realize. I think one of our strongest alliances there is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and they're just below Iran.
Yeah, King Solomon, Mohammed bin Salman, is a strong advocate and ally to the United States. There's a lot of things that I can tell you have transpired, taken place that would be substantiated proof that yes, him and Trump are thick as thieves. So, but it'd be interesting tonight at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
See what Donald Trump has to say and where we go from there. You know, I'm gonna probably look at you and tell you, buckle up. We're headed somewhere. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting out here, so I'd say you could flip it over to any of your news media channels right now, and they've got a breaking news report on about these Israel or Iran strikes and stuff, and then this big speech he's about to give out. So I'd imagine it's about an hour away now. So I'd imagine it's that's the big story right now. Is what's he gonna say? Where do we go from here? And
Could he say, "My fellow Americans, the storm is upon you"?
it's very, very possible. We may be hearing it. We'll find out in about an hour's time. We'll find out, and that's what you call a leader too. When you successfully do what you say you were going to do, and then an hour or so later, you're live on the air telling your citizens about it. So, you ain't going to wait till in the morning to do a speech. He's going to do a speech today. He's going to do it now. Like, it's just happening. You got anything?
Nah, I'm just looking through some stuff here.
All righty. Well, like I said, guys, the Trump address to the nation is at 10 o'clock, which is about an hour from now. So if anybody would want to watch that, I'm sure he's going to be on every TV channel they are.
Oh, yeah.
So you ain't going to have to try to be flipping through the channels to try to find it. I'm sure, it won't be that hard to find. I mean, just flip it over to any of the media channels and probably any of your locals, and you'll find it. Like I said, by the time we're back on here, hopefully next week, nobody's gets sick or anything's happening, but hopefully by next week we'll be back on here, and we'll have more updates about what this address to the nation is, and maybe know some more things. Might be in full-fledged war before next week. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But we'll have to just see how things go. But I do appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been great to be back. Glad Matthew's feeling better. It's good to be here. Nora says the Dems will impeach him now because he did it without Congress approval. Now, that wouldn't surprise me. But, we'll have even possibly something like that to talk about. But you guys take care. Enjoy tomorrow. It's going to be 95 degrees. It's going to be sunny. I think.
Stay cool. Stay in the shade.
Stay school. Yeah, stay school. I guess I've got got too much sun today too. Stay cool. Drink plenty of fluids. Next week it's going to be in the mid-90s all week. Summertime has arrived. Maybe the rain will hold off, and get out and enjoy yourself. Play in the pool, play in the creek, whatever it is you got to do. If you have to be weed eating or out, stay.
Do it early morning.
Do early morning. Stay cool.
Late evening.
Stay dry. Stay dry. Stay hydrated. I don't know what the heck I'm at. I can't think right now. But everybody take care. Have a good night, and we'll see you guys next week. See you guys.